Tonight on Let It Rip, two different strikes in the D, both United Auto and casino workers assembling on the picket line, betting on themselves. Both the Big Three and the three casinos are major economic drivers in Metro Detroit. We're diving into the short and long-term impacts for the Motor City. But first, a horrific story out of Detroit, reigniting a decades-long debate. A little boy mauled to death by a pit bull. It's got people asking once again, should that breed be banned? Or is it all in the way the owners are keeping their dogs? That debate starts right now. Time now to Let It Rip with animal rescue advocate Lauren Delega, Reverend W.J. Rideout, who believes pit bulls are dangerous, Celeste Dunn, an attorney who says there might be civil rights issues involved in banning pit bulls, and former Assistant Detroit Police Chief Steve Dolan, who's seen his share of problems because of many dogs, including pit bulls as well. And of course, our attorney and anchor, Charlie Langton, with us as well. Good to see all of you with this Let's Let It Rip. Let's begin with you, Lauren. If you just do a simple search and talk about what you've seen in terms of pit bulls, not even talking about what happened this past week, which was so tragic, just yesterday to hear about a 4-year-old in Detroit who was mauled to death by a pit bull. This brings up the topic once again as to whether or not this breed is just simply dangerous. Is it the breed, or is it the way these animals are kept?
No, there's a lot of research out there that shows that the breed is not, there's not a clear association with the danger that they pose. It's really the individual dog that's making the difference. It's the owners, it's the way they're kept, it's how they're raised. But really it should be on the owners to have control over their dog, to protect their dog from dangerous situations, and to know the personality of their dog. Dangerous dogs should not be on the loose. They should be controlled.
But in this case, you had a young child who was sitting, apparently, look, the facts are just coming in, as you can well imagine from this investigation. A child who was playing in a yard, a dog apparently dug its way through under the fence, goes through the fence, grabs this child, drags the child, locks onto the child, and mauls this child to death. You don't hear about random dog breeds doing this. You only hear about pit bulls. Emma Hernandez, a 9-year-old back in 2019 and 2015. There was a 4-year-old. You don't hear about a lot about other dogs doing this. Would you agree with that?
You don't, but if you look at it, 50% of the dog breeds are mixes. So while they're maybe identified as pit bulls, they're not necessarily purebred pit bulls. These are mixes. They're medium-sized, they're muscular dogs that are doing this, yes. But again, it's because the owners do not have control and do not have control over their dog. The dog should never have been in that situation.
Reverend Rideout, you've seen this over and over again. A 4-year-old yesterday. Again, we're talking about Emma Hernandez back in 2019. Time and time again, when you see these pictures unfold on the news, you have something to say about it.
Sure. I feel that one death is one death too many, Roop, and we are seeing dogs like pit bulls become uncontrollable. I look at a pit bull like I look at guns. The gun in the hands of a wrong owner or person is the same thing as a pit bull in the hands of a wrong owner. Now it's time that we make these owners, just like you make owners and parents responsible for senseless shootings and killings of kids by guns, then we need to make these owners of pit bulls accountable for the attacks and the atrocities that are happening in our community.
Do you think a ban should be considered?
Absolutely. I mean, if you can't control the animal, what do? They're putting them to sleep. Every time they get them and take them into police custody, what do they take them? They don't take them to a dog hospital. They take them and they euthanize them. So, I mean, why keep killing the poor dogs when you can just ban it altogether if they're going to be uncontrollable
But should there
species?
be a leash ordinance instead of a complete ban?
There are leash ordinances out. Detroit has an ordinance that with pit bulls that you're supposed to have license and there's supposed to be a special tattoo on the dog. They're not doing that. And so since they're not doing that, these dogs should not be in the company of any person.
So this could be a matter of enforcement is what you're saying. We'll get to Steve Dolan in a moment, who knows a lot about this. But Celeste, I saw you kind of shaking your head when we talked about this particular breed necessarily being inherently violent. We know that this breed has had a history, not because of the dog, but because of the people who own them, of having dog fighting that's happened. We know that it says said that their jaw latches and it's hard to unlatch the jaw of a pit bull. Do you agree with any of that? Do you see truth in that?
Well, I'm not a veterinarian, but I've been doing animal law for many years. And let me give you an example. This summer I had a purebred Labradoodle bite a child, causing 27 stitches to the dog's head. Did that hit the news? Not a word. And what's happening...
But the child wasn't killed and mauled. I think the reason that was on the news is because they were talking about 3 children that were killed in Detroit in the last, what, 7, 8 years now.
Of course, horrific, different circumstance. That child lived. But to solve the problem, I don't think it's a pit bull ban. I think we have a serious ownership problem. Under state law, a dangerous animal can be merely a dog that runs at large, that gets out of its backyard. And what's happening is the enforcement of proper fencing. A dog at large ticket is a misdemeanor, 90 days in jail.
Which is nothing.
But it's nothing, but yet it shows significance at the state level, the message that you need to, when you have a strong animal, whether it's a shepherd, a husky, a Rottweiler, all these breeds are capable of destruction. 2 Rottweilers alleged to kill a woman in Bloomfield Hills 2 years ago. Cane Corsos 10 years ago on the runner. When you have a strong breed, owner responsibility is absolutely the bottom line. And why that dog was in the position to kill this child is ground zero for me. It should never have happened. The owner should be held responsible. But we're sending the wrong message. We need boots on the ground. We have private rescue groups willing to help the city, coordinated efforts. They get pushback. We should have a rescue group at every precinct. So they are on the streets making sure there's proper containment, proper fencing.
We don't have enough money and enough personnel.
Well, and let's get to resources.
Private enterprise is going to come
Private enterprise, you're saying, is willing to help, but the city needs to allow their cooperation.
That's what I'm talking about.
Steve Dolan, look, now that you don't work for the city anymore, you work for the department for 4 decades. No, it's true. You're not there. You're allowed to say, speak your mind.
That's a low blow.
Speak your mind. No, he retired, and guess what? You have a lot of expertise in this topic. You were on the force for decades, and while you were there, you saw perhaps what's known as a lack of enforcement. I mean, is animal control able to handle this tall order of taking care of these dogs?
No.
Enough personnel?
They don't have enough personnel for animal control. The police have enough things to worry about. For a while, animal control, I believe, fell under us for a while. Chief James White, or the assistant chief, had some animal control. There are not enough people in animal control.
Absolutely not.
There's not enough enforcement. And as far as the pits, I was there. I mean, I watched that video, the most disturbing one, where the dogs came under the fence.
Yeah.
Grabbed that child from the mother. Remember that? Several years ago, dragged him back.
Sure.
And mauled him. And a police officer ended up shooting the dogs. Okay, and that was the most disturbing video I've ever seen. No, there's not enough people in animal control.
No.
Are the police going to be enforcing all these little misdemeanor things, like she said? No. But someone should be.
So you don't have the proper enforcement to take care of this problem. Do you ban the dog?
Listen,
Steve Dolan, your opinion?
No.
Why?
You don't ban the dog, but as they've all said, you hammer the hell out of the owner. Because whether it's a gun or a pit bull,
come on.
You're responsible. It's a responsible parent, not these kids that leave, 20-year-old kids that left the gun out the other day and the little kid. No. Boom. And I don't mean don't do it again. I mean, you want to abuse a dog, leave a dog in the backyard and stuff, fine. You go to jail, you see how the dog lives.
Charlie, more money or better training? What do you do to take care of this problem so that no other child dies at the mouth of a pit bull or any other dog?
Well, the problem is the law is very clear on these pit bulls. If the dog runs out, that's a violation. If the dog bites someone, that's a violation. But that's the criminal side of it. I think there's a civil side of it as well.
Yes.
And you can sue the owner of the dog. Now, in this case, I don't know if the owner is around. And then again, I don't know if the owner has insurance. In many ways, if you have a pit bull, perhaps there should be not only a license and shots, but an insurance requirement. And have some kind of coverage in case these dogs bite. I'm not in favor of a ban on pit bulls because there are some very good pit bulls from what I have understood there to be. But you've got to put a little something on the owners though to make sure that these dogs don't go out and bite someone if they kill people.
Is it education? Is it advocacy within the neighborhood? What does it take at the ground level?
I mean, it is better enforcement of current laws, maybe more stricter laws in terms of leash and having control over your pet. It's better education and and less expensive neutering and spay, because these dogs that are living outside, they're not being neutered either. So they're just increasing the problem of all these.
Reverend Rideout, when you hear these solutions, do they hit the target for you, or do you think that there needs to be a heck of a lot more done?
Not at all. This is just a slap on the wrist. And I think that we are having more concern about a dog than we are human life. And I'm a pet lover too, let me say that. I have a dog.
Sure.
But sure, my dog is not out running the street, biting people and eating up people. Now, here's the thing. If you can't control the dog, then you don't need to have the dog. Just like we're permitting people from having guns now, we need to permit certain people from having dogs. And if it has
How do you do that? How do you do that? Celeste, how do you do that as an attorney? How do you do that? You can't stop someone from saying you can't have a dog, can you?
Well, same way you do guns. Same thing you do guns.
It's a different licensing process.
They have
right?
to do it.
Yeah, the laws on the books and at the state level is basically, let's say your dog runs at large. That falls under a dangerous dog category where the court can then order the dog confined to the premises or order the dog euthanized. I am a proponent, and I think that law should be changed to just what the Reverend's saying. You lose ownership rights, because I don't think the dog should necessarily be punished for merely running at large, but it's messaging these owners of the importance to prevent this. This has got to stop. This cannot continue.
So back in the day, it was another breed that was talked about as being really violent. Rottweilers. In the 80s, I remember watching the local news here in Detroit as a young person going, wait, Rottweilers are the problem. Now pit bulls. If we keep assigning blame to different breeds, we're not getting to the root of the problem. Steve?
It's the people. Some are ignorant, some are negligent, and some are just freaking stupid. They have no business owning a dog.
Thank you.
And it's not against the law to be stupid. Then the jails will really be filled. But the point is, they have no business owning a dog at all. And when you see dogs that are in chain, you see these idiots walking strapped with a 9, walking down the street with a 10-pound chain, carrying a vicious pit bull. It's like, yeah, I'm a bad ass. No, actually, you're a dumb ass, because if the dog gets out, they're going to sue you if it bites anyone. Or when you don't have the dog, well, the other fellow gangbanger's going to shoot you.
I want to thank all of you for joining us here today. This is an important discussion that starts to scratch the surface, hopefully one that will continue in the circles that it needs to continue in, so that we can find a solution so that we don't have other kids who are hurt and killed like we've seen. Thank you to our panel for joining us today. Charlie and I on the other side of the break. When we come back, 2 different strikes in 2 different industries, but both could have a major impact on the Motor City, the automakers and casinos, both huge for driving Detroit's economy. We're diving into that when we come back here on Let It Rip. Back now, Let It Rip, diving into the dual strikes happening right now in Detroit. We're talking, of course, about the Detroit casinos and also the UAW, which continues now, more than a month later, and it is taking a toll on so many workers. Joining us now on our panel, James David Dixon. We thank you, a conservative columnist, for joining us today. And, of course, Coleman Young, Jr., it's always good to see you as well. Thank you for joining us, City Councilman, here to talk about an important issue that drives Detroit's economy. Charlie's been covering both of these stories. All right, let's break it down for people at home right now. We're talking about a situation where they say, look, after COVID in the casinos, they're saying fewer people are working, and because of that, the people who are left there working are doing more work, and they say, you know what, we need to lessen the workload and increase our pay. Is that fair, James?
It is fair. I mean, everyone is saying kind of the same thing, and everyone wants more pay for less work. That does make sense, but for Detroit, the situation's pretty worrisome. There's years where casino revenue will rival property tax revenue, so it is a huge driver for the city. So this is not just something that affects one sector. It can affect the well-being of the city itself.
The people who are working these jobs are people on the other side, yes, probably on social media and other places, where they're saying, you know what, you're asking for too much. Less work, more money just isn't going to work. Coleman, what do you tell them?
Well, first of all, let me just say, Roop, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Always great to see you,
My main man, Honey Grant. Listen, let me just say, I think the fact that you have workers who worked during a global pandemic, who lost their lives, who sacrificed blood, sweat, tears, and toil in order for the casinos to stay open and make the record profits that they made, I don't think that they're asking for too much. Quite frankly, I think they're asking for what they rightfully deserve. And I also think the fact that they offered a 3% increase, but you had inflation at one point in time that was at 20%. So it would eat all that away from the casino side. From the UAW side, they asked for 21% increase. They offered for a 21% increase. But again, inflation was at 20%. It's only a 1% increase. That's wrong. The reason why these corporations have the money that they have is because the sacrifice of labor, and that's why we have the unions here, so that we can close the income gap, we can close this wealth inequality, and do for workers.
General Motors and Ford, both of them coming to the forefront with their own statements, like Sean Fain makes his, and they both said, you know what, we get it. We want to get better deals for our workers, but we have to stop at a certain point, because if we cut into our profits too much, we won't be able to invest into our future. Do you believe that?
Well, listen, I think that the UAW, I think that the labor unions that are all with my brothers and sisters, they're over there with the casinos, they understand the business. And they understand they have to make sure that the business makes profit. But what they want is a fair shake. And I think what's happened is you've had workers, the reason why we have the profits that they have now, the massive profits, is because of the sacrifice of the workers. Because of the fact that the workers were willing to take on the cuts. They're willing to have their health care cut for them to make this money. And now they're saying you made all this money, you're making record profits. It's time for you to give back to those who gave you the profits in the first place.
So at the end of the day, General Motors says when you give everybody the raises and the packages that they want, people will be making on average $100,000 in income. And they're saying that that's in the top 25% of workers in the United States right now. James, that's not enough, is it?
It sounds like a pretty good deal. And if I'm a UAW member who's on strike, I have to wonder, what exactly is the exit strategy? Okay, so there's 150,000 UAW members who were auto workers. There's about 340,000 members overall, which means that when you only have 30,000 people on strike, that's a small fraction. And so Sean Fain, the UAW president, he's spoken against the two-tier system. He has a two-tier system. There's one tier of workers making what they make. There's one tier of workers who are on strike making $500 a week. And they have to be saying...
That's a temporary thing, right? That's just,
it's temporary, but it's not evenly spread. It's not solidarity, certainly.
So everybody should go on strike. Would be a much better strategy, right?
That would be a better strategy. It would be hard to survive. And here's the problem. Here's the problem. You do that, then you burn through your strike fund. So strategically, they can't. But you do have to think that eventually 10% of the people are going to say, why are we doing 100% of the sacrificing?
Well, and Sean Fain, by the way, I mean, he's, I assume, watching the headlines and reading what people have to say. Sean Fain is doing this for the worker, but the workers we talked to yesterday on the picket line, many of them said, I don't know how long I can do this. This is not sustainable. $500?
They can't do it. They can't sustain
that. They can't sustain that, right, Charlie?
There is a point of no return, I think. But I do think that there's a message to be made, though. I think that the record, it depends how you analyze the profits of these companies. But I think the bottom line, though, is for many years, these workers have been working with very minimal wages, very minimal. And that's not right. And I think that when they see the head of the auto workers, when they make these very large salaries, it just doesn't do well. There's another thing, too, is you really want to keep your workforce happy. It's a big deal. When you have workers that are loyal, that devote their lives to your company, you really want to make them happy. And the practical way you can do that is to pay them. And I don't think that they feel they're being paid the right amount. So
I do want to push back a little bit. I mean, so we all have jobs and we all have bosses, except Coleman. Coleman doesn't have a boss. The people are his boss.
The people are my boss.
But it's not uncommon for your boss to make more than you. And I think in Metro Detroit, you know, if you are able to afford a home, able to send kids to college, able to maybe have a second home, are you really worried about what Mary Barra makes?
These people can't afford the cars.
They can't afford the cars. You're making more.
But Coleman, shouldn't CEOs...
And it's 320 times more? That's the issue.
What do you think? I'm just wondering, what do you think a reasonable salary for someone like Mary Barra or whoever you were talking about, Farley at Ford, what is a reasonable salary for them?
Well, listen, here, I think that's the wrong question.
But no, Coleman, it's not the wrong question. It's the right question because I'm asking it, Coleman. What do you think? Why is it too much?
When you have CEOs who are making 320 times more than their average worker, that is a significant problem.
Coleman, how much more should they make? That's my question.
Well, listen, I understand that, but I just think that's the wrong question.
I'm asking the question.
I don't want to play CEO fairy. How much money should you make?
You're saying it's too much, though.
No, I'm saying the fact it's 320 times more.
That's too much.
Is too much. And I'll say we need to reduce that. And that's why the unions are here, and that's why they're striking. Because you literally have people who are running out of money who run out of month. You literally have people who are making decisions and Am I going to keep my lights on in my house, or am I going to put gas in my car? Am I going to keep my lights on my house, or am I going to have food on the table for my children? And so that's why they're asking for these increases.
Coleman, how much more can these workers take, and how much more can Shawn Fain ask for? Is he asking for a 4-day work week, or is that just something on the table? Is he saying you need to get to 40%? Because that's not going to happen.
Well, listen, I don't like to, I'm about to say, I don't like to count my eggs for their hatched here. But what I would say is I think they're in for the long haul. And I think that management and I think that the CEOs need to really sit down in earnest and have a conversation with labor and work this out. Because the workers right now are hurting, they're starving, they can no longer afford to be in the middle class. And I just think it's a shame that they're making poverty wages while you're having people who are making record numbers of profit.
Well, you say poverty wages, but the GM and Ford both push back on that, saying if you're making $70,000, $80,000 a year, you're not at poverty rates. Do you think that that's an inaccurate statement?
Well, I think with inflation and the way that inflation is eating it, I would disagree with that, push back on that.
So, Charlie, inflation is a factor here, and many people.
Let's take a look at someone's worked 30 years at General Motors, okay? Yeah. That's a Tier 1 employee. They get a pension. Isn't that good? You know what they get? They get $50 a year for their work. Do the math. That's $1,500 a month. That's it. That's all they get. Nobody can live on that. So here are the people who devote 30 years of their life, and they get a pension of $1,500 a month. That's it? That's terrible.
I mean,
and
James,
that's gotta change.
While you say that perhaps these CEOs deserve to have healthy salaries because of the unique role that they have, that I understand. But to Coleman's point, when you take a look at some of the inflated salaries, do you think Mary Barra, do you think Mr. Farley, do they get it? Do they understand what the average worker who's going to work breaking their back for this company, do they get what they're doing?
Oh, I think everyone gets what's at stake.
Bill Ford,
the executive chairman and heir of the company, gave a great speech this week talking about this thing. And the part I think people missed is when Ford, he talked about there's a national security reason we want to manufacture domestically, but he also mentioned personal values. It's a personal value of his as a Ford heir that we do be so American-centric in our manufacturing. Which is to say, when you read between the lines, if it were a purely business calculation, perhaps we wouldn't be so American-focused, which is to say if someone else were making those decisions, maybe it wouldn't be. So we're trying to divide up the golden goose. I don't think we understand how fragile the whole thing is.
But do you agree that when you hear Bill Ford Jr. talk about Toyota and Tesla being the winners at the end of this whole thing, because at the end of the day, these workers, in essence, he didn't say this, but are extinguishing their own roles by giving business elsewhere. Do you believe that?
I think
absolutely.
Coleman, do you believe that Toyota and Tesla win at the end because of it?
I think that we've had a problem with globalization. I think that we've had a problem with outsourcing. It's part of the reason why we're here in the first place. And I don't really like this conversation that all of a sudden we have to be careful and be protective of the golden goose. Every time we're having a conversation about workers just getting their fair share, about workers being paid for their experience and for their sacrifice.
Is a 20% raise getting their fair share?
I don't think it is. I mean, now, of course, now let me say this. That's going to be up to UAW. That's going to be up to, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I don't think that is, especially with inflation. You know, you're talking about cutting into that by a significant amount. So it might only be a 1% increase if inflation's at 20%. So I think they're going to negotiate that and work that out.
We're going to go to break real quick, pay the bills, come back on the other side of the break, and get some final thoughts. Plus, Charlie's taking Let It Rip on the road.
I would say every day you're out, the city of Detroit loses money. What do you think about that?
That's not very good. I need a raise, and I'm not going for no $1.35 raise either.
There's nothing against anyone making a profit, but you got to share that profit.
Is striking the best way to make your point?
It should be, since we've had lousy contracts.
You think sometimes going on strike may not be the best way to do things?
Well, what we have tried to do was negotiate several times, and they seem they're not hearing us. They don't want to adhere to our demands. So if they left us no other alternative.
I've been there 24 years and I've gotten $6.02 raise.
We've seen hospitals, we've seen casinos, auto workers, UPS drivers. Everyone seems to be going on strike. Is this a new trend?
It's not a trend. It's just a fortunate economic time.
So I'll be 81 in February, and I'm a damn good worker.
81 years old, walking the picket line right now. These workers are the backbone of our community. That no one can argue. I don't care what side of the coin you're on. So the question is, how much longer can this go? And how is this going to end, James?
It would be best if this strike did not become a general strike. Let's get back to work. Let's remember that we're all neighbors and brothers here, and we, like to be prosperous.
Coleman?
I just say equal pay for equal work. And I think that if you have people who literally died in order to keep the casinos open, if you have people who literally took the shirt off their back and sacrificed for these companies to make the billions of dollars in profits and windfall they're making, they deserve to get paid for that.
Charlie, how long does this last?
It's going to last a while. I think they're far apart both on the auto industry and the casinos as well.
We got to thank all of you for watching. We want to thank all of our workers for bearing what they're bearing right now. It's a heavy weight and one that they hope will continue to make a point. We'll see how this ends. We'll be watching every step of the way. That does it for this edition of Let It Rip.